At my son's 12th birthday, he walked in with a purple bruise under his eye. My brother's son smirked and said, "Just teaching the runt a lesson. Dad says he's born to serve us anyway." The family laughed, but nobody noticed me walk out. I didn't yell, I didn't flip a table, I didn't do any of the things my brother was probably hoping I'd do. I went to my truck, sat in the dark behind the estate, and made a phone call. My brother has been running our family business for 5 years, ever since our grandfather passed. That's the version everyone at that party believed. The version my brother had spent 5 years carefully maintaining. There's a hierarchy in my family. My brother is at the top. CEO, golden son, went to business school on our grandfather's money. I'm at the bottom. I run a furniture shop out of a rented garage. My truck has 190,000 miles on it. To my brother, that made me a joke. To his son, it apparently made my kid a target. My son is 12, quiet, draws detailed maps of cities that don't exist, never been in a fight. My nephew is 15 and 60 pounds heavier. There was no fight, just a kid cornered by the dock while the adults drank champagne, and a family that laughed when he came back inside bleeding. That was the moment something shifted in me. Not rage, something colder. The call I made was to my grandfather's old attorney. He'd worked for him personally for 30 years. My father fired him the week after the funeral. I'd always thought that was strange. He picked up on the second ring. When I told him what happened, he went quiet. Then he said, "I've been waiting for you to call me for 5 years." I drove to his office that night. He had a file on his desk he'd clearly pulled before I arrived. My grandfather didn't trust my brother. The lawyer said it plainly. He built that company with his hands, and he knew my brother would strip it for parts, so he structured the inheritance in 2 layers. The first layer was what my parents announced at the will reading. My brother gets the company, I get a stipend. That part was real. The second layer was what they didn't announce. A private trust drafted separately, with my grandfather's attorney as sole executor. It granted controlling shares, 51%, to the heir who demonstrated craft, integrity, and the character of the founder. The trust activated on the youngest grandchild's 12th birthday. My son turned 12 that afternoon. My brother didn't know the trust existed. He'd spent 5 years bleeding the company's reserves, leveraging every asset, certain the shares were his permanently. They weren't. Over the next 8 days, I did 3 things. First, I went back to the estate after dark and checked the old security shed by the dock. My grandfather had hardwired cameras there in the 90s. My brother never touched the system because he never went near the maintenance shed. The footage from my son's birthday was still on the server. Clear audio. My brother at the railing, cigar lit, telling my nephew to make it count. Second, I hired a forensic accountant who'd worked for the state attorney's office. She spent 6 days going through the company's filings and the internal documents the lawyer had retained as executor. My brother had been routing revenue through a private vendor LLC he controlled, $3 million over 4 years. He was planning to move the remaining liquidity offshore before the annual audit the following Friday. Third, I called my brother's wife. That's a longer story. What matters is, she'd been watching this for years and was done. The board meeting was a Tuesday. I didn't announce I was coming. I walked in with the trust document, a hard drive with the doc footage, the accountant's findings, and a letter from my brother's wife's attorney. My brother was mid-sentence when I sat down. He smiled when he saw me. Same condescending smile he'd been giving me my whole life. "What are you doing here?" he said. "This is a board meeting." "I know," I said. "I'm the majority shareholder." I called for it. He laughed and looked around the table. The board members weren't laughing. My grandfather's attorney read the trust clause into the record. The accountant walked through the LLC. The doc footage played on the screen. My brother's voice filled the room. "Make it count. Consider it an investment in your inheritance." The board voted 7-1 to remove him before noon. My brother was arrested on fraud charges 6 weeks later. The offshore transfer never went through. I didn't take his office. I put a desk on the original production floor, kept the window open, kept the sawdust smell in the building. My brother called me the night of the vote. I let it ring. My son asked me about it at dinner. "Is it weird?" he said. "That grandpa trusted you the whole time and never told you?" I looked at my kid's face. The bruise was already fading. "Yeah," I said, "but he knew I'd figure it out when it mattered." My son nodded and went back to his food. Then he said, "Can we get a better truck now?" We got a better truck.